The company I represent is a company called Helveta. We're a software company and we provide traceability software that allows organisations to trace natural assets as they move from a point of origin to somewhere else along their supply chain. We tend to try and address questions that people often face but don't know how to answer. Things like, do I know for sure that the metal I'm using in my mobile phone has come from a conflict-free area? Am I sure that the food I'm eating comes from a sustainable source? Traceability is important for more or less most organisations today, and the reason principally for it is that in a lot of sectors, especially sectors where there's natural resources that are being produced and used, there's legislation in those sectors that say to organisations, you must comply, you must prove that you know the source of your product. And if organisations don't fulfil their obligations under the legislation, they have the potential to be fined by governments, they can have the goods that they're producing confiscated, and it can have quite a serious impact on their business as a whole. So we operate in a number of different sectors. We operate in the timber sector, we operate in the mining and minerals sector, and we operate in the biofuels and agricultural commodities sector as well. In the mining and minerals sector, the drivers in this sector as well tend to focus around more rare metals, such as tungsten, tantalum, gold, tin as well. And those type of metals tend to come from areas where there's often conflict and war, places like Central Africa. And legislation in these areas says that organisations who are producing these metals, taking them from the ground, need to know the source and provenance of those metals, and therefore that when they're buying them, they're not funding conflict. Most of the competitors tend to operate in single sectors, whereas we're multiple sector. The other advantage that we have over the competition, and this is actually quite crucial, if you imagine that you are growing coffee in Africa and you need to capture some data about that coffee, probably the farmer in the field who's growing the coffee has no IT skills. What we do with our technology, which gives us the real advantage and edge over most of the other competitors we have, is we make it simple to capture the data all the way through the supply chain, and at the end of it we produce something that we call a digital passport. And the digital passport effectively is the electronic record that proves provenance and shows traceability. And it's that's really valuable to all of our customers. Helveta is an international business. We operate literally across the world. In order to be able to drive our business growth into the sectors that we've already talked about, we're hoping that we can expand in places like South America and in Africa in particular. Those two areas for us are agricultural commodities. All those products tend to be sourced from either Latin America or Africa. So that's really where our focus will be for growth.